So I'm halfway through Sweeney Todd, and he just got interrupted when he was about to ask the judge the first time, and he's clearly going into it's something that's talked about in cptsd, just like this, a full-blown, really bad, just, I don't know, psychotic rage. He's going into a fucking meltdown, and Mrs. Lovett immediately tries to just play it, downplay it. There, dear, it'll be fine. Calm down now. And but also aware, ooh, he's going off, and she knows not to play with that, right? But then it's so, I didn't realize how much thought went into just the psychological depth of all of the characters in this movie. This is the cool thing about getting older, is you can watch a movie that you've seen a bunch of times when you're a little more mature, and you're just oh my god, this is even better than I realized it was. But they show just that highly dissociative, where you're really fragmented. I've been there when I was younger. That you're just kind of, if you get dysregulated enough, you're just kind of in a tornado and grasping at things. And so he's cycling and re-regulating to different moods and ideas. And the first thing that happens is he's starting to go into a psychotic rage, and he suddenly, for the first time, instead of either being just really emotionally unavailable but having boundaries that generally seem pretty healthy, this is the first time that he's used Mrs. Lovett's game of always finding someone else to pass the blame off to for your ego. And he turns and focuses on her and says, you told me to wait, and now I missed my chance. And she has a moment, I'm realizing how fucking good all the actors are in this. Holy shit. When it comes to those just psychological depth things. But you see her just something's changing. Because she tests his logic a few different times, in her overreactions to things, so that she can get a response from him and then gauge okay, I'm safe. But she's wait a minute, you're putting the blame on me, you're changing your own game rules. And he's just borrowing her game rules, probably because they were annoying to him, and it's there and it's easily grasped, and it's kind of just in her face, but then after he blames her arbitrarily, because I was thinking about it and I was she didn't tell him to wait about this specific occasion, and then I was when? So it always seemed right, because it did seem like she had told him to wait at some point. And I was when did she tell him? It was early on, in that first scene before they encounter Pirelli. But then the first thing he does is regulate to that new, bitter, cold worldview that the movie opened with. He regulates to that. He regulates to that's the closest thing that he has of him, his sense of self, to come back to and center on. So he actually has practice centering on. He's built some sort of basis where he knows he falls apart from it, and then there are things that get him back to his center. They're just all really bad bases. Because he doesn't have the tools, and he's too hurt, and he hasn't worked through it. But then he cycles through, and then he, and it's so funny watching Helena Bonham Carter go from this bitch really might kill me, to like, oh god, he's so hot though, and his mouth is so close to mine, fuck it. And I'm just like, gosh, she's such a creep. She's such a creep. Her character is such a creep in this. I never realized. I knew she was just, a suck up and needy, but this time I'm just like, babe, you're a cute golem right now. But then he has this like break where he's just utterly committed, and I think he's like assumed fully that self, and is done being his old self and being conflicted about it. He's like, no, I am this villain that I like kind of fantasized about becoming when I come back if I have to seek vengeance, and just fully commit to it. But it's completely from just like this psychosis state, and it's just, I didn't realize there was this much going on in the movie, and like all of that is coming through song lyrics that have to work as song lyrics and convey all that information, and be accessible to, and linear, cohesive. I mean, for people who aren't into the depth of it like that, and